Thank you so much for joining us on another amazing episode of Bioenergetics Beat. I'm Heather Gray, a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and a certified bioenergetic practitioner. And today's episode is brought to you today by Nikki, Unleash the Wellness Within. It's a non-invasive, easily affordable, and highly effective approach to wellness. It's a wearable device that puts frequency better based life in your hands and on your wrists. You're going to want to make sure to stick to the very end because as per usual, we always give away an awesome gift on this show, but you're also not going to want to miss one word of this next guest because she's a fellow badass FDN like myself. And we're going to be talking all about energy and chronic fatigue and just, all the things that keep you from feeling like yourself and living your most amazing, joy-filled, healthy life. So who doesn't want more of that, right? Let's welcome Claudine to the show. Yay!
Hi, thanks for having me. It's so good to be here.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, why did you get into FDN? Why are we talking about energy? I'm assuming there's a pain to purpose story in there somewhere.
I don't know if there's anyone in functional medicine who hasn't had some kind of pain that threw them into this work unexpectedly. Yeah, so I was in corporate America. I got my chops in accounting. So I was a CFO of a multinational conglomerate, well, a few different companies. And as anyone who's been in corporate America knows, it can basically chew you up and spit you out, and it just can suck the life out of you. I used to say that it was killing me slowly from the inside out. And of course, I went through my own health issues because, as you and I both know, when you have chronic stress for long periods of time, your body starts to break down because that's what cortisol is doing. It is literally breaking your body down. And I had constant migraines, terrible fatigue. I was working out all the time, but I was gaining weight. I felt I had brain fog. I couldn't think properly when you're dealing with numbers and people's financials and sending millions of dollars in transactions across. You kind of need a brain for that. Like, oops, there was an extra zero on the end of that I just sent to Chile. Oh, well. So it got to the point where I was in so much pain that I started to see a functional medicine practitioner on my own. And of course, as you know, she went through all of the steps. We took away the gluten, the dairy, the sugar. I realized that all of those things were inflaming my body and just kind of like a power outage, on the body. It was just like boom, pulling everything down. And I quote unquote got better, right? Physically, I got better, but I hadn't addressed the whole reason I got there in the first place, which was my need to work myself to death, my need to prove myself, the fact that I wanted to be go, go, go all the time. In some ways, I was addicted to that cortisol rush. And so 4 years later, I was in the same spot again, going through it all again. And that's when I found FDN. At this point, I had actually left corporate. I was a health coach, and I loved working with my clients and helping them gain energy, helping them feel better. But there was this missing component, right? Like 80% of people can get better with lifestyle change. But I found that there were 20%, that 20% where it didn't matter how much water they drank. It didn't matter what good food they ate, if they were exercising, et cetera. There was something going on under the hood that I couldn't identify. So that's what drew me back into functional medicine. I got my certification, and that's where we landed. I finally addressed my mental issues.
Well, and that's the sad, funny thing, right? Like functional, it's so funny. Functional is so great to start people getting off of the Western med, cycle of prescriptions or cut it out. It's actually kind of helping get deeper into the root cause of things and lifestyle. But sadly, a lot of times they can still just focus too much on the physical. And I think that's where we're going with this is if you focus too much on the physical, there's other missing components in your health journey, right? Like, especially those of us who have the Nikki and we know about bioenergetic stuff and, emotional stuff. Like there's all these different layers other than just focusing on the physical when it comes to healing. So thank you for bringing that in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I noticed that with the women I work with, because I work with a lot of high powered, get her done, like, if you need something done, give it to her type of women. And so we tend to overload ourselves pretty easily because we're so used to being able to do all the things for all the people all the time that we can often forget to take care of ourselves. Because, oh, did we put ourselves on that list? Oops.
I actually have a new bit in my stand-up where I'm talking about, women and entrepreneurs and how, we're already coming after the house and the husband and the cat and the plants and oh let's throw on a business on top of it, we could handle more chaos, right? Like, it is sad that we have a tendency to put ourselves on the back burner, and cliches don't become those cliches without being a little validity behind it. Like, you got to put your own oxygen mask on first, and you can't pour from an empty cup. But, us recovering type A personality, female types, it's very, 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 very ingrained in us. And it's easier said than done sometimes.
And you're absolutely right. And it's also a lifelong journey. It's kind of like, how they say yoga is a practice. You can't just do yoga. You're constantly practicing it. I feel like being that recovering A-type personality is also a practice. I have to remind myself all the time, oh, Claudine, you don't need to work yourself into the ground today.
Right.
You'll be there tomorrow. Somebody can wait.
I have to just look around and go, oh, I haven't had any fun today or any downtime. Like, how do I fix this? We were just talking about that before we came on live. I'm dealing with some mold toxicity, which is making some brain inflammation, and being tired on top of it is making it even worse. Like, I should have, right, taken a little nap before I decided to push forward, because it makes things a lot smoother. But yeah, when we have, one more thing to check off the list, because that's where we get our dopamine hit.
The list.
We get the list. Exactly. All right. Well, this is a good place. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to dive deeper into, I know she's got 3 secrets to help us reclaim your energy, get us out of feeling overwhelmed. So topics that I absolutely love. And of course, I love using the energy feature on my Nikki when I'm feeling days that I just need a little bit more oomph. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
There's a new word for wellness, Nikki. Nikki, the bioenergetic wearable designed to help you feel better and perform better. Other wearables just track how you're doing. Nikki is about helping you do better. Touch the Nikki screen to choose the frequency you want for what you want to do and how you want to feel. Nikki puts a personal wellness center in your hands and on your wrist. Be better. Do better. WeAreNikki.com.
Hey, I'm Steve. I'm an engineer, a biohacker, a dad, and I love my Nikki. I use 3 different programs on this one mostly. In the mornings, I run Energy Boost, which honestly is about the equivalent of a cup of coffee. I still have my coffee, but this does make a difference. After work, I run my stress and anxiety program, and that takes me from being like, task mode from work to really kind of chilled out dad mode, which is nice. And occasionally when I need it, I run the pain program as well. I actually tore my ACL last September, middle of September, and I was running again by middle of October. No surgery, no therapy, just the pain program once a day. So I've worked with red light therapy for several years now, and like I said, this is just about my favorite because it is so easy to use. I just put it on my wrist in the morning, run it all day. Don't even notice it's there except for how I feel. So I love it.
Nikki puts a personal wellness center in your hands and on your wrist. Be better. Do better. WeAreNikki.com.
Fantastic. Thanks for rejoining us. I would love, love, love to hear your 3 secrets, Claudine. Secrets. Let's get that out there. Let's have it not be secrets anymore, right? Let's have it start being mainstream logic. So lay it on us.
Let's do it. Let's share the love. Well, secret number 1 is why you feel like you need to lie down all day, the one thing you must address. And this comes down to, well, why do you have such little energy? I find that the women that I work with, sometimes they really need to be reminded of the basics, because they get lost in the shuffle of, oh, I'm going to try this diet, and then I'm going to do this new thing. And then, oh, there's this new machine. Like, there's always the shiny object. But a lot of the women I work with, they are not eating enough. Full stop. They aren't eating often enough. and they just plain aren't eating enough, right? They feel that they can address whatever they need to address by fasting, or they can address whatever they need to by just, I'm just going to have 800 calories a day. That's going to help my inflammation. That's going to help my weight and all the things, right? Rather than looking at the root cause. So, they get frustrated. They feel exhausted. And that's because they literally do not have enough calories for their body to do its job, right? The body has a list of, I call them SOPs, standing operating procedures, things that needs to get done every day. And if it does not have the fuel to do it, you're going to feel pretty tired. So, a lot of my clients, that's the first thing we start with is like, get your 20 to 30 grams of protein 3 times a day. And for some of them, that is the hardest thing to do. Right?
It's crazy too. We're also noticing how much brain inflammation is caused by blood sugar spikes, so if you're also having those energy dips and the blood sugar spikes, and yeah, it's crazy because it feels counterproductive, counterintuitive as a female when we've been taught, to stay skinny and we got to eat less and exercise more. And we're starting to blow the lid off that paradigm for quite some time now, but there's still a lot of people who got the memo.
Absolutely. And it's like, you'll have the woman who's running around, I'm just going to grab a handful of nuts. I'm just going to grab a cheese stick. I'm just going to, so then you get to the end of the day and it's like, well, what did you actually eat today? So yeah, that's the first thing. And then the second thing, it kind of goes hand in hand, which is the natural energy booster you've been looking for is to ditch the caffeine and try something else instead. And the reason why this really hits home for me is because I have a very close friend. When we first met, we were both in accounting. She was drinking 20 cups of coffee a day.
Good God.
20 cups.
Her poor
now she has 4 kidneys. So she's like, I'm like siphoning it out. That's this weird thing where she has 4 kidneys. But still, she started to have problems. And I'm thinking, the caffeine's not working for you. I know you want to stay up till 4 a.m. doing these financials because we all know it's so much fun to stay up till 4 a.m. doing balance sheets. Right? But instead of the caffeine, one thing that I tell my clients to do is a lot of them are really low in basic minerals, right? They're low in sodium, they're low in potassium. And so I do this, you've probably heard of it, an adrenal cocktail. Right. So you were saying their adrenals are shot. Most people, their adrenals need some love because they've been overworked. And so we put some, like a quarter to a half a teaspoon of cream of tartar, which is the potassium, a quarter to a half a teaspoon of Celtic sea salt in some water, throw in a squeeze of lemon. I like to do a whole lemon in mine because I love lemon. And that is a little bit of love up on your adrenals. You're getting that sodium and potassium. And a lot of women that I know, they perk up right when they have that. I was just talking to a client the other day. She's like, oh, if I feel tired in the afternoon, I just make myself an adrenal cocktail and get some energy back. You're literally putting the nutrients in your cells by doing that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so funny. The electrolytes, like I didn't realize that real batteries, like batteries in your car, there's electrolytes in them. I had no idea. And I was like, oh, just like electrolytes is needed for our batteries and our cells. Like, it's amazing how that works.
It is amazing how that works. Yeah. Your body needs certain nutrients. It's kind of like, I think of electrolytes or even like any minerals, it's like the tugboats. If you think of a harbor where you have all these big ships that need to go places and the tugboats are like getting everybody where they need to go. So that's how the electrolytes are. They're the tugboats that move everything to happen, make everything happen in the body. Because without enough magnesium, sodium, potassium, calcium, like the main things, nothing's going to happen in your body. It doesn't have the building blocks to make all of the things happen. So I think that's a key area that a lot of women are missing.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So what else you got?
Overcoming the rage and irritability. How many people are biting people's heads off when we're exhausted? Anybody?
I know mine's from Lyme and mold. Like Lyme rage is a very real thing, but yeah, when you're exhausted, it's also, I mean, they're right there ahead. So it's like a double perfect storm, when you've got mold toxicity going on and you're exhausted. Woo, total rage.
Yeah, well, it's awful because when you're exhausted, it's depleting your body's reserves. Like when you're tired, when you're stressed, it actually is kind of like we just talked about those electrolytes. It's depleting your body of the nutrients it needs. Potassium and magnesium are the first 2 to go when you're exhausted. So when you don't have the nutrients you need, it could be it's affecting your energy. It's affecting your ability to handle things, right? Think about it when you don't sleep, for example. How much more likely are you to have a calm, cool, collected conversation with somebody when you haven't slept? A lot less likely than when you have. So it's the same thing with being exhausted. It makes you more irritable. And so then you get stuck in this cycle of depletion, because when you're exhausted, you're more irritable. Not only are you biting people's heads off, you're also more likely to reach for the comfort foods, right? The sugary things, the salty things, the carby things. And so then you just feel more tired. And it's just this ongoing cyclical problem. So what I recommend to people is, if you're feeling that I'm going to bite somebody's head off, I do a very simple breathing exercise. It's just, you take 4 deep breaths in, or deep breath into the count of 4, hold it, and then breathe out to 6 or 8. You do that a few times. Like, we just did it once. I'm already like, ooh, chill. Right? Time, and it resets your nervous system, right? It takes you from that sympathetic fight or flight into the parasympathetic rest and digest. And then you can have the conversation you need to have with the kid, the spouse, boss, the employee, whoever, the person who just cut you off.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh, traffic. Well, it is. Thank you. Traffic. It kills me because we understand the car metaphor so well, right? Like, if your gas takes on E, we wouldn't expect your car to keep going and performing and doing anything. But for some reason, we will put our bodies on E all the freaking time and push through all the barriers that it's telling us, all the signals it's telling us. Hey, I need something to eat. Hey, slow down. Hey, we put just a piece of tape over that check engine light and continue to try to chug along. And then we wonder why our lives are falling apart. And, people are calling us Karen because we're so reactive and nasty. So, this is also like my PSA to Karens, if people are acting that way, it's usually because there's something going on inside, right? So try to be extra kind to Karens instead of, meeting their reactions, because healthy people don't talk and treat and act that way, right?
And I do car analogy partially because the reason why a lot of us push ourselves beyond the point where we should is because our bodies are so great at compensating for us for a while. Unlike a machine where it's actually just going to stop. But our bodies are great at letting us push through. And I feel like we get to, well, I don't feel this. We get to a point where our body just can't do it anymore. It's kind of like if our adrenals are a racehorse and we're the jockey on the horse, and we got the whip and we're just beating the horse and the horse is running because it's, we got the whip going. It'll go for a while, but eventually the horse is going to tap out. And that's what happens to our adrenal glands. And that's when most of us start to notice the symptoms. We start to notice all of these things starting to break down in our body. And that's when we're like,
oh, absolutely. I remember I had to re-look at this again back in 2020, I believe, because I was living in a moldy area. And then too, I have really issues with mold, but I was getting reactive again. And my husband finally, had a come to Jesus meeting with me. And he was like, hey, I love you and I'll support you, but I'm not going to stay married to an angry person. And it was my wake-up call to take a step back and go, okay, what's going on? Because this reactivity, it's not me. It's not who I am to my core. And so there's something else going on, and I need to dig deeper instead of ignoring it and just, putting it on the back burner and making excuses like we all have a tendency to do sometimes. And really, because it takes work, right? It takes work to dive a little deeper, and it takes change, and, all these things can be, take some bandwidth, but boy, when you get on the other side of it, it is so worth it.
Absolutely. And it takes some courage. Right? Because I think of what a lot of people do is, and this is pretty common. I did this too. When I was having my migraines, I went to the doctor. Of course, that's what you do. You're raised when you have a problem to go to the doctor. You go to the doctor. They say, oh, you have a problem, take this medication. You take the medication and the problem doesn't go away, or the problem gets worse, or you have other problems. Right? So then it becomes this knock-on effect where, oh, do you take another medication to handle the original or the offset from the first problem? And then eventually a lot of people get to the point where they're like, this isn't working. And do they have the courage to find another solution? And that's typically where people find us, right? I think in functional medicine, we find courageous people, or courageous people find us because they're like, the quote unquote normal way didn't work. I need to find something else. Is it possible that something else can help me? And that's where we come in.
And I love that you brought up the reactivity part, because it was funny. Wednesday nights I usually go grocery shopping, and by the end of the day, back then I was exhausted, so I wasn't very nice sometimes to the tellers at the grocery store. And again, that's not who I am to my core. And then when I got the Nikki, I was like, oh, I'm just going to check this out. And I hit the energy feature, and I was like dancing around and being a goofball all the way up till the ride home. And it dawned on me afterwards. I was like, holy cow. So you don't have to stay in that reactive mode. There's things that you can do. And when you address things at a core level, like I said, it's amazing what can happen.
I love it. And the fact that you were dancing, like that dance is a great way to relieve stress, right? Or even just shaking it out. If I'm shaking it out. I mean, yoga class, my teacher would be like, everybody just get it out. Just to reset everything, let your body know it is okay. We are not going to die today. You don't have to run away from a tiger, because we can get stuck in our heads quite a bit.
Oh, absolutely. And so what she was talking about was she's bringing up the shaking. If you've ever noticed, animals out in the wild and they get into a kerfuffle with something else and then they walk away and then you see them shake, it's our nervous system's way of kind of dispelling that excess energy that we've accumulated during that kerfuffle. So if finding yourself, it kind of can look a little silly, but if it saves somebody from getting their head bit off, then look silly. But God bless Taylor Swift, shake it off, shake it off.
Yes. How did she know to complete the stress cycle? Somehow Tay knew.
Oh, shoot. All right, so we're getting kind of close to the end here. Is there any other little nuggets you want to drop on our listeners? And also the shameless plug time of the show. How can people find out more about you? What are you putting out there these days?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I think the most important takeaway that anyone can get from this is that if you're feeling exhausted, if you really want to regain energy, the first thing to do is probably the hardest thing, which is prioritize yourself, right? Prioritize the things you need for you, because even though we know they're cliche, you do need to put your oxygen mask on first, because you can't pour from an empty cup. And that will, so making time to make yourself nourishing meals, to stay hydrated and get crazy, add some Celtic salt and coconut, or either coconut water or to your water, add some lemon juice. Little changes can make a big difference in your day. Now, if I do have a free gift for your community, so if anybody would like to have more information on that breath technique, I'll give you the link. You can put it below. It's a stress busting breath technique that they can use. You can also find me on my website, ingoodcleantaste.com. Same handle on all the social media accounts, and they can follow me there.
Fantastic. Also, to make sure to visit wearenikki.com/podcast and use BioBeats for 10% off. But like I said, we love our customers so much. And a way we show appreciation is by giving away a free Nikki hardware set along with the wellness suite of frequencies. I think it's like a $597 value. It's awesome. But you can go to the show notes to find out how to apply for that. Good luck, and make sure to have a healthy day. Thanks for joining us.
Hey there, my name is Jer. I'm an art director and a graphic designer. My wife and I have 2 grown sons. Both are starting their young careers apprenticing in their fields of passion. And then there's our favorite son, our 7-year-old puppy, Andre. Andre has been the best addition to our family in the last decade. When the pandemic hit 3 years ago, my career was turned upside down. I started working as a contractor for a few clients and working from home. I haven't looked back since. My schedule with work is hectic and often stressful. I have 2 ways of dealing with my stress and anxiety. Number 1 is my dog Andre, and number 2 is my bioenergetic wearable, Nikki. When I need help with my work-life balance, I use my Nikki in stress and anxiety mode. And I have a puppy break. My Nikki touchscreen watch is pretty easy to use. It's cool that I can dial up individual frequency sets. When Andre is ready to go, I tap energy. I've been a longtime hockey coach and play in goal twice a week myself. I find the pain mode has reduced the inflammation in my legs in particular. The nighttime mode has been great. I charge my Nikki every other day at my desk. I've been wearing this cool tech for almost a year. On the latest update, I see there are some new frequency bundles. There's morning, afternoon, evening, on top of nighttime.
Nikki puts a personal wellness center in your hands and on your wrist. Be better. Do better. wearenikki.com.
The views, information, and opinions expressed in this content are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Freemedica. Freemedica Technologies, Inc. and its employees are not responsible, nor verifies accuracy any of the information contained in the following content. The primary purpose of this content is to educate and inform. This content does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services.